Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Beck, where you get real news from real people. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Yes.
It went fast.
It did go fast.
Very
I
full.
finally got my tree up. I got all 4 babies under one roof.
Nice.
I know you worked on your tree this weekend too.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we have everybody home from college, 2 boys. So I know you have 4 home now, right?
Well, 3 in college are home. Yes.
Okay.
So it's just great. And it was so funny because they were wrestling downstairs and it's like Claire's beating up Cole and it's like Cole just didn't, it's time he needs to like toughen up and put her in her place. Anyway, today we're going to talk about student loan debt forgiveness. This has been a hot topic lately and it's really frustrating, especially for someone who put themselves through school. I crammed 4 years into 5 just to, you know, I did get a double major. But anyway, I just don't think it's right that some of these students go ahead and take out hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loans. They don't work their way through college. They, you know, have a great time. They go out for every club that there is, and now they want their loans forgiven. I just don't think that that's right in any way, shape, or form. And I know Bernie Sanders was actually campaigning on that, and now Biden and Harris have kind of picked up on it as well. In fact, Schumer went ahead, and if you want to put this quick slide up, Schumer wants to forgive $50,000 of student loans per person. And he's thinking that at least 75% of American borrowers would benefit from cancellation of student debt. Well, heck yeah, they'd benefit. And then also they're saying that there's a loan program out there that forgives student loans in exchange for public service. That's right, it's called the military, and they have earned that free right to have a free education. So I suggest if anybody wants this free education, go ahead, sign up for the military. We're gonna need it.
Well, I know there's another program out there that they might have been referring to, and it's the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, and it's already on the books. It is a program whereby if they are in public service, they can get a portion or all of their debt forgiven if they work for the government for at least 10 years. I didn't know this was on the books. I didn't know that it was available to them. I would have thought the same thing that Mary said, that you had to be in the military and then you could earn your grants in order to go to school.
So are they saying any form of government, just in the government for 10 years?
If you work for the federal government, then, and you work for at least 10 years and you make payments for those 10 years, then you can get, if you work for a nonprofit for that many years too, then you can qualify for tax-free loan forgiveness. But that only makes it worthwhile for graduates who plan to pursue a career in like politics or some other kind of service industry. So it doesn't affect everybody, just those folks that do that.
Well, student loan forgiveness doesn't forgive the loan, actually. It just transfers the loan to those of us who never asked for the loan, agreed to the loan, or benefited from the loan. And I love what Benjamin Franklin said, when the people find that they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic. And he described a democracy, which is the majority, is 2 wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch, and liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. And, you know, as the independent on the show, I was screaming when Trump started talking about forgiving student loans. And now I hear, you know, Mitch McConnell talk about, you know, with the flick of a pen, Biden can do this. I'm telling you, it's so frustrating to hear this because we're supposed to be fiscal conservatives. And then now it's like, you know, I tell people Obama part 1, Trump part 2, okay, who put us $7 trillion more into debt than Obama, and Biden part 3. It's like, I don't know where this money's coming from.
I think it was Schumer that said that, not McConnell.
You're right. It was Schumer.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's 2 parts of this. One is college is expensive because we used to work our way through school.
Yes.
And come out and not owe an arm and a leg and the next 20 years of our life. I have 10 kids. They all have school loans. I don't want them all to be forgiven. A little break maybe would be nice. Like maybe why not give them a break on the interest or help them? But the bigger problem is the cost of colleges. And what's interesting, I read a while ago that part of the reason that college costs have gone up so far, Forbes magazine says they've gone up 8% inflation rate, which means that every 9 years the cost of college doubles. The regular inflation rate is more around 2.2%.
I think we have did you submit something? There was a.
I do. Well, let's look at the graph. So if you take a look at that, the biggest debt is college loan. It's more than credit cards, it's more than auto loans, and yes, it does compromise their lives. So when they get married, maybe they want to stay home or have kids and they have to work at their jobs, they can't buy a house. So it does compromise their life. But part of the reason the college costs are so high are because of college loans. Because they don't have to say, no, I can't afford it. And it's a cycle that's feeding off itself. And then the colleges don't have to bring their costs down because nobody's saying they're not going to college because they can have these free student loans. And, you know, tomorrow is a long ways away, right? I actually called Jerome Richter, who's the vice president of University of Mary, because I have one son at UND and I have one at University of Mary. And I know that UMary keeps their costs down, which is unusual for a private college. And Governor Burgum last year, he actually cut the amount of state aid going to the colleges. So let's just compare University of Mary with the state institutions. He said, okay, University of Mary, 16,662. No, I'm sorry. There's 16,774 a year. NDSU is 700 more. UND is 800 more. That's pretty close. But consider that there's $53 million in state aid that goes to the state colleges. And the private ones don't get anything. So Burgum last year cut 6% off the budget. And people are like, what? How can you do that? This is so important. But I think he's looking at realizing maybe you need to cut back on expenses and reduce your costs, because if they can do it at private institutions like University of Mary, the state ones should be able to. So, I mean, it's a two-edged sword. I'm not in favor of forgiving college debt, but we need to bring the costs down.
Sure. Well, let's take a look at this little slide from what Mike Rowe had said. I love him, first of all. But he said, the fault belongs to you. If you didn't plan properly for college, if you didn't work through college, then that debt is on you. It is not on the taxpayer. That's the part that's so frustrating. And I guess I can see a little bit of, you know, during this time of COVID, these college students, a lot of them are waiters or waitresses. They are not getting any tip money. They're not getting any wages. And so they have these college kids that are trying to work their way through college, and they don't have a job to help them, to support them. So could I see giving them a little bit? Yeah, I could lean that way. Do I see, hey, let's go to college for 10 years and let's, you know, whack off like 50,000 or 100,000 in your loans? No, I don't think that's fair. I worked my way through college. I think just anybody else can as well. I know during rotations, if you're going to medical school or law school, I get that, I understand that. But you're also going to be making more money when you get out of that college rather than as my business administration degree. Any final thoughts on that? We have about 30 seconds left. Anybody want to prove a point?
Well, I like what Mike Rose said. He said, you quite possibly were sold a bill of goods. You were very likely pressured by your friends, your parents, your guidance counselor to attend the right school. Basically, he's saying, okay, you got into this mess. Maybe you didn't even need to go to college. And it's a sad story that you bought the bill, but the debt doesn't belong to anybody else but yourself.
Absolutely. And with that, we will be right back after these messages on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, where you hear real news from real people. Now, in this segment, we're going to talk about the vaccine. Not about any vaccine, but the current vaccines. It's so amazing because they just released Moderna's vaccine today, but it came with many, many warnings on it. There have been hundreds of thousands of people that have already taken the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, I should say, and many of them are becoming very ill from it. And we know that these are being tracked more readily than they were, say, years ago. But with this new vaccine, it should also be said that the CDC does not approve this vaccine and never has. They're only doing it because it's an emergency pandemic situation right now. But now let's layer on top of that, England, Australia, and now Africa has also said that there is a new strain of COVID, and it's supposed to be bigger and badder and more scary than this one.
Well, I've heard COVID-24. I think it's just all part of the fear package myself, but I don't have all the details on the ones that are overseas. But I know that there's some grave concerns about giving this new COVID vaccine that's available in the U.S. to the elderly. They put them at the top of the list, saying that they thought that they are the most vulnerable, therefore they should be first in line. I kind of have an issue with that because there's also studies showing there's an alarming amount of evidence showing that there's pathogenic priming happening with older adults, which basically means that if they get the vaccine and then they come in contact with the wild virus, their symptoms are going to be extremely more dangerous and or cause death. And I think that it's frightening.
Well, the CDC just came out with their latest surveillance. This is for December 18th. It showed just the first dose. We're not even talking about the second dose yet.
So let's pop that up. I think we have that for our viewers.
So you see 112,000 took the first dose, and out of that 112,000, 3,150 had health impacts. They were unable to perform normal daily activities, unable to work, required care from doctor, or healthcare professional. What was really alarming was 514 of them were pregnant. According to the FDA, this is an unapproved vaccine. That is deeply concerning, and if I could just quickly explain why that's concerning.
But Renee, back up to that 3150, those are just people who can't even go to work.
I know.
So that doesn't even mean those that have mild symptoms. Those are those
know.
that can't even go to work, can't
It's
perform
serious.
anything. So that's a pretty big deal.
And we haven't even gotten to the second dose. Now, the FDA, a lot of people don't realize this, but it's really scary with normal vaccines to get approved by the FDA. They're really lax when it comes to vaccines. To give you a quick rundown on how this works, FDA has different requirements for drugs versus vaccines. Vaccines are labeled as biologics. So, for instance, with a drug, an adult cannot get more than 25 micrograms of aluminum injected into their body because aluminum is a known neurotoxin. But with vaccines, because it falls underneath biologics, children get 4,985 micrograms of aluminum injected in their body via the vaccine schedule by 18 months. And that's the difference of how the FDA works with this safety thing. And that's how easy they are, and they haven't even approved this. So if they aren't approving it, it's got to be pretty scary.
So let's go ahead and pop up the fact sheets from the CDC. We'll just kind of go through one at a time. The first one, it says that you may receive a vaccine because there's currently a pandemic, and that's the whole, reason. Okay,
Yeah.
And then in the next paragraph, it says it may prevent you from getting it. The third paragraph, it says it is your choice to receive the Moderna vaccine. And then it goes further on to say it may not protect everyone. And of course, this fact sheet can be updated at the CDC. If you go towards the bottom, that last one that I highlighted, the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is unapproved vaccine that may prevent COVID-19. And it further says there is no FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. So anybody at this point is basically a guinea pig. So what I'm going to do, I'll quickly go through these sheets, and then you guys can have some comments. On the second page, it said that you might have these side effects: allergies, hay fever, bleeding disorder, or excuse me, you're not supposed to take it if you have any of these. If you're pregnant or planning to become pregnant, or if you're breastfeeding. Now, we already know that 500 and some out of 112,000 were pregnant. And it says who should not get the Moderna vaccine if you've had an allergic reaction. Well, how do you know if you've had a reaction if you haven't had it yet? And then it lists the ingredients in this vaccine, and I can't even pronounce most of it. But anyway, in this 5-page report, it speaks about, I bet it lists 5 or 6 times how many you are not that it is not approved. It's not a FDA approved. Anybody care to pop in on this?
Well, the one thing that they're not really saying, now that should be alarming what you just read. And they're not saying, like, 4 people got Bell's palsy, which is facial paralysis out of this. I think that's interesting because, if we're going to have to wear the mask after you get the vaccination, at least that'll cover up the Bell palsy, right?
Yeah.
Now, I was really disappointed when I seen Mike Pence and his wife go on national TV. And, did they actually take the real vaccine?
I'm guessing not.
And then if you notice behind the picture, I wish we would have had this up, they've been telling us for years, vaccines are safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. And there is, Mike Pence with the sign behind him, safe and effective. And they made the public statement that this vaccine is a medical miracle. I'm going to tell you, that is deeply concerning, deeply. That we have our leaders, because they're going to lead so many people astray. And I'm going to tell you, we don't even know the long-term consequences of this product 5-10 years down the road.
Right. And we're not really talking to the people that have vaccinated. I vaccinated myself. My kids are all vaccinated. We know that, we took the advice of our health professionals. So we don't want anyone to feel bad if they've had a vaccine, because I would say 90% of everybody or even higher has. And so I just want to make that perfectly clear. If you've been vaccinated, you know, there's nothing we can do about that now. But now that we have so much more information and more knowledge about vaccines, now is the time that we all really need to wake up and decide if this is something that we really want to put in our bodies.
I want to say something. We're almost ready to go to break, but I just wanted to say very quickly, because we talked about, oh, it's mutating. But every time I've read anything like the New York Times, they're not conservative, but even the liberal media, I think they just ran out of news and so they want to scare people some more. The scientists expected that there was going to be variants,
Yes.
and they're all saying that it's not going to affect the vaccine at all. There's no reason for alarm. But Boris Johnson in England is putting the hardest crackdown ever. Well, this just goes to show how few people have been experiencing any problems. So just a small minority. Look at the school-age kids. Hardly anybody's been affected by COVID, and yet our schools were shut down. And now they're saying, well, we need to shut down even more because we think there's a variation in the vaccine. It's like, look out, everybody.
And so what do viruses do
mutate.
when they absolutely, they
Yeah.
mutate. What happens when you use hand sanitizers? It kills the good germs too, so you're really hurting yourself. But anyway, we're gonna have another break, and after this, we have a guest. We have Father Joshua Waltz from St. Joe's over in Mandan. We'll be right back on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. Today we have a guest. We are joined by Father Joshua Waltz from St. Joseph's in Mandan. And what is so interesting is a sermon that you gave at the beginning of what they called this pandemic. It was called Faith Over Fear. And so now we're moving forward many, many months, and now we're coming up upon Christmas, and we talk about COVID. There's political differences, mask versus unmask, and we're going to be spending a lot of time with relatives this weekend. Do you have a thought on that? Any advice you can give us?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're going to have both sides. I mean, some are going to be, you got to be masked. So others are going to be, you don't have to be masked. I don't really know. For myself, I'm just going off the science, and it's been very, very clear, as far as I can tell, that masks just don't have what we're looking for, essentially. And so I have personally have not worn a mask since the whole thing started. I've been on COVID wards. I've anointed people in hospitals. Now, of course, when I'm there, I have to wear a mask. That's their protocol. But as far as I know, I still haven't had it. So it's going to be tough. There's no doubt. I think probably the main thing is again going to the faith over fear, right? And if the kill rate on this thing was a lot higher, who it's affecting, yes, with the elderly, should we be protecting them? Absolutely. We should be smart, wash our hands, but at the same time, it's our family. I've been going to nursing homes, which are like prisons right now. It's been awful, and one of the big things that I've noticed is a lot of them will say, I would rather have my family here and get COVID and even have the possibility of dying rather than to be locked up, to be alone. Because, nursing homes are already sort of a prison. If you've never been to one, we go there all the time. If you've never been to one, they really are. And now they're like solitary confinement. They're locked in their rooms. They can't go anywhere. Some of them we're trying to meet. They won't even let us in unless it's absolute end-of-life stuff. So it's been very, very frustrating. I don't know if there's any way of getting around it as far as the Christmas season goes. I mean, personally, I'm lucky to have a family that all has the same viewpoint on things. So but I think trying to really push that family is way more important, especially for the elderly at this point. They have been locked down for so long that it's just not fair to them.
And then, so when you say faith over fear, just give us a quick summary. Explain that a little bit.
Well, it all came when I was getting ready to preach this homily, and I had a totally different homily, and my principal texted me this link to C.S. Lewis wrote an entire little thing on what it was called On the Atomic Age. And basically, what Lewis said is, he said, how should we live in the atomic age? Because they constantly had the threat of the atomic bomb. And he basically said, he's like, I think we should live like we've always lived. Just because scientists have found another way in which the inevitable is going to happen, we should not have to just be huddled down, like locked up in fear. And I love one of the lines he says, "Dear sir, madam, be very clear that you and your family were sentenced to death at the moment of your birth." And so, I mean, we all have a terminal condition. It's called life. And just because scientists have discovered another way in which the inevitable is going to happen, we should not just be imprisoned. We should be smart, for sure, but at the same time, we should be out and doing what humans do. We should be praying. That's one of the things I cannot get through. My brother and I went down to Florida for like a 6-day vacation, and I was sitting next to everybody on a plane with them. I mean, closer than this, less than 6 feet, packed plane, mask for 2 hours. That's okay. That's okay. We can do that. But we can't. We have to have every other pew. We have to have 6 feet distances. The people out on the East Coast and West Coast, the lawsuits right now. I mean, my buddy is in Brooklyn. He's the rector of the cathedral. And I think they could have had like 10 or 20 people or whatever. He said his church is so big that you could have 200 and still easily have 6 feet apart. So there's just too many inconsistencies with this thing. And I'm not gonna live my life in fear. I'm going to live my life in faith.
I love it. I love it. I am so happy to hear this. I have been so frustrated with the Christian community. I've heard a lot of this love thy neighbor. And I'm like, you know, you don't love your neighbor when you're lying to people. You're exaggerating. We're putting masks on people and they don't work. The science shows they don't work. And we're doing this to children. The long-term consequences psychologically of what we're doing to children. So I can't tell you how many arguments I've been in with Christians who are like, love your neighbor and put on the mask. I'm like, no, that's twisting scripture.
Well, part of the thing for me too is I was just, kind of the whole thing was made abundantly clear to me when I went to this nursing home in the area, and I came in and I said, I want to meet with this person. They called, they wanted the sacraments. And they said, well, do you have an appointment? And I said, no. And then they said, well, you can't come in. I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay, because the virus respects appointments. So it won't attack if I have an appointment, but it will if I don't. She's like, well, no, that's not quite what I mean with, you know, that we only allow from 12 to 2. And I'm like, oh, so there's no virus between 12 and 2. Yeah. And, you know, and she's like, you're being very difficult, Father. I'm like, no, you're being very difficult, because I said, there are people who are dying in here. I gave a homily and I said, you guys, because we've had a ton of funerals at St. Joe's, and I've talked to the funeral homes. They are like overwhelmed, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's COVID. No, it's not. It's not COVID. It's people are dying, and I personally think they're dying from loneliness. I have had people that I went and visited over and over and over again. Since this hit, they are just tanking because they have, like, we are built for relationship. That's the whole thing. We're created in the image and likeness of God. Yeah. God is three persons, one God, subsisting in love. That's what we're meant to do, is subsist in love. If you take that away, I mean, what's the worst possible torture you can give to a human being? Solitary confinement.
Yeah.
And
isolation.
you want to talk about love your neighbor?
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people have said that to me too, because they're like not wearing a mask, and I'm like, why don't you go to the nursing home? Why don't you go and talk to these people? I'm talking about loving your neighbor. I said, we're killing our neighbor right now.
I know.
So the elderly, I know you know people with dementia in the nursing homes and stuff like that. How are they doing?
You know, it's hard. I mean, I had this one lady. She came up to me, and they took me in. I was masked up and gowned and, you know, face shield, glasses. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I was like, you're going to kill me before I kill anybody else. But I went in, and this lady wanted to go to confession, and she had dementia. And I kind of sat down. I'm like, in the name of the Father and the Son. And she's like, what? You know, she can't hear anything through all the mask. And I'm like, okay, in the name of the Father. And she's like, stop. And I'm like, what? She's like, take that off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, but she's like, you think I'm afraid of COVID? I'm 95.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah, I mean, that's, yeah. I think a lot of them, and the more I ask them, when I go and visit these people, I'm like, are you afraid of this? And they say, no, I just want my family. So again, you want the argument that I would give for masks, no masks. If you want to wear a mask, go ahead. If that makes you feel better around grandma and grandpa, but get them over. Like they're dying to be with their grandkids and their kids, and that's the sad part about this.
Right, and I would like you, especially probably can go into this more in the next segment, to talk about this fear that we have in our life, that everybody is so afraid of death that they're not living. And I think it used to be different in different times. Like, we expect that somehow medical science has to save us all the time now.
Well, I think it was different. People had faith.
Right.
That's what was different. It's not that the world has like so many problems and we're in this, people lack faith. And when you don't have faith, now some people are going to say you're just being stupid.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. We're smart. We're a smart religion. Christianity is a smart religion. But I'm not going to be controlled by something that is not as deadly as people are saying it truly.
Certainly. Well, thanks for all of that. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk more with Father Waltz right after these messages on Beck.
Howdy folks, it's a County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hay Bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a combo that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Yeah, shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We are returning with Father Waltz over from St. Joe's in Mandan. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about Mass. And Patty, you had a quick question.
Well, I think we have to be sensitive to one another. And obviously, as a pastor, you're probably getting concerns from both sides. I don't want to have to wear a mask. How come everybody's not wearing masks? And I was in Michigan for a while. I have a 95-year-old dad there. Very different in Michigan than North Dakota, and it's a blessing to worship here in North Dakota, and you have friends in other states. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts about just our freedom of worship here and that sensitivity of masks versus no masks?
Well, I think one of the things that I became abundantly aware of, so I have a group text of, it's high school buddies, and one is pretty staunchly conservative, one is kind of in the middle, but leans a little bit more conservative. One's much more to the left, and I'm Catholic. So, but whenever we talk, I remember one time we were talking about, Biden and Trump, and it was before the elections and stuff, and I said, you also have to remember that he is pro-abortion. And then the guy that leans a little bit more to the left texted back, he's like, buddy, that's fake news. And it clicked in my head at that moment that as conservative, like the media has done such a job of splitting America, so that how we believe, as a conservative Catholic, like how I believe, and how I'm so passionate about it, that they're the exact same way. And how we would say, oh, that's fake news, they're going to say that's fake news, And so I think all of that has really kind of got pushed out into the culture. And what it's done is it's divided us in a serious, serious way. I had, one lady came up to my brother. He was shopping, and he wasn't wearing a mask, and she wasn't either. And she's like, "Not afraid of dying, Father?" and he's like, "No, not really." She's like, "Me neither." And then later on, he grabbed like all this ice cream because had this big dinner party and he was standing in line. She's like, "I'll tell you what, COVID won't kill you, but that ice cream, that could.
That's gonna kill you."
So, but I mean, you've had anywhere from that to where I had people screaming at me for not wearing a mask. Like, you're a leader in the city. How could you not be leading by example? And for me, I said I am leading by example.
That's
I'm living in faith, not fear. So I'm trying to be a Christian leader in the sense of saying, we have to be smart about this, but at the same time, we don't have to be in prison, as I've been saying. But we have unbelievable freedoms in North Dakota right now, and those could be taken like that, if we're not careful. But buddies around the nation, it's insane. It's absolutely insane what's going on right now.
So you mentioned politics, and of course, with Christmas coming up, how do we navigate a house full of people? Some are Democrats, some are Republicans, some are in between, some are maskers, some are non-maskers. What would be your word of advice for that?
Talk about Jesus. I mean, I really mean that. Like, I've been thinking a lot about this, and if you're going to talk left, right, like I said, it's so divided, there's just going to be this, incredible, there's just going to be fights, crazy. But what I've really found some success with is talking about Jesus and just talking about the truth and what is truth, and then what conforms to truth, and how should we live our lives in accordance with that truth. I spend way more time talking about that than I'd spend talking about politics. I'm so sick of talking about politics at this point in my life.
So, yes, but what do you say to people that are disappointed with what's going on from election and post-election to rise above that into the spiritual realm?
That God's in charge. Like, I think that I preached on this a couple of weeks ago. I said to my people, I was just like, we as the Christian, the amount of anxiety and unrest amongst the Christian people is troubling to me. Because it's not that there's too many problems, as I said, that we lack faith. That if God, that doesn't mean we just sit back and go, God's going to take care of everything. I think it was St. Benedict, right? He said, work like everything depends on you, and pray like everything depends on God. And I think that's great wisdom in the sense of, I'm going to work my tail off for what I believe in. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to say, God, it's your church, it's your world. Whatever I messed up, you got to fix, And I think that we were really lacking that type of hope, and that's why there's so much anxiety. That's why there's so much depression. That's why because people have no hope. If your hope is Donald Trump, and Donald Trump loses the election, your hope is crushed. If your hope is Joe Biden and he wins the election, then all of a sudden it's great, but then 4 years it's gone, and then these videos of people crying and screaming about how somebody didn't get into office. I'm like, Donald Trump is not the answer to our problems. Joe Biden is not the answer to our problems. Am I going to lean more towards the conservative than the liberal? Yeah, absolutely. But the answer to our problems is Jesus. And until this country gets back to Christianity, you're going to see violence increase. You're going to see hatred increase. You're going to see the split of America. If you look at the devil, right, his name, there are two names. Well, he has a lot of names, but two that I like to focus on, which is Satan and devil. And Satanas in Greek means the accuser, right? And if you look at the amount of accusation that's going on right now in the media and the public, you're not wearing a mask, or you are wearing a mask. It's just crazy, so these accusations. And then the second name is diabolos, which means to divide. So if you want to look who's running the show right now in the media, in the public, in families, it's pretty clear that it's not Jesus. And until we get back to that, we're going to keep experiencing what we're experiencing.
Well, I think that everybody has been saying that it's end times ever since the resurrection. Everybody thinks that they know when time is up.
Well, and everybody wants to be in the end.
Exactly.
I do anyway. That'd be great.
Absolutely. But I think that there's been more talk, more recent. They think that things are kind of lining up as to Revelations. Mm-hmm. And they are kind of even more fearful, especially if they don't have their ducks in a row or their heart in the right place. So how do you speak to those people that are just totally fear-filled and they're not giving into their faith, so to speak?
Well, I would hope that, a lot of it would just come from example. I have a lot of joy in my life. I have not a lot of depression. I'm a pretty happy guy, and it just so happens that I follow Jesus. So I do believe, going back to your original point with Revelation and stuff like that, I do believe that we are probably in what we would call the great falling away, or the great apostasy. And I think the great apostasy is the idea that government gets put into the place of God. And people start looking to government as they would look to God. And when that happens and God is pushed out, one of my favorite quotes ever is the Russian author Dostoevsky. He said that there are two ages of mankind, from the rise of man to the death of God, and from the death of God to the annihilation of man. And basically what he's saying is as soon as man gets so advanced, so in charge, they think they don't need God anymore. And once we do that, we will essentially destroy ourselves. And you can see it again and again and again in history. And that's why I just, part of me is, there's another topic for Christmas. Let's talk about history. How can you not see it replaying itself right now?
Right, and there's so much trying to cancel parts of history.
Yeah.
You don't even know what to believe anymore if you were to pick up a history book. But we only have a minute left, and we had talked about a little bit before the break about blessings and curses. And to me, COVID could be a curse for many, but it's also a blessing because it's brought families together. People are doing things together as a family unit, and rather than going out and doing their thing. And I love to go out as much as the next person does, but I love even more to stay at home with my family and watch a movie or play a game. So to me, that's where it could be a curse, but it's a blessing in many senses.
And it's put life in perspective. Like we can ignore life and death, or we can ignore death oftentimes, and some people have had to confront it in new ways with this.
Yeah, I think it's been a huge, everybody I've talked to just that I know that believes that's not living in this state of fear is saying, yeah, it's just been such a time to be with the family and to kind of get what's most important, right? Get my priorities straight again.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we have run out of time, but we've sure enjoyed these last two segments with Father Waltz. Please join us again sometime, but we'll be right back after these messages on Ladies of Another View on Back.
Howdy, folks. It's the County Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink for trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best-built, best-backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I think the last two segments were a lot of fun having Father Josh here. He's become a pretty good friend of ours and hunts, does a little deer hunting out at our place. But anyway, we have some great feel-good stories here. And what was that county? I forgot the notes.
McKenzie.
McKenzie County. Take a look at these pictures. The community came together at the nursing home facility, and they did caroling out front of the building for all the residents to hear. And it was just, they did their social distancing just to be politically correct. But I guess the residents were just overwhelmed by it all. And then later, they went ahead and grabbed Christmas lights and they decorated the front of the building, and it is just lit up. The old saying, lit up like a Christmas tree. It truly was. It's been a fantastic idea for these residents. But anyway, I think, Christmas is almost here, but isn't that just precious, you guys? Now, if you were looking out any window and to see something like that,
yes,
that's awesome.
Just to hear the music and see the smiling faces.
Love the light.
Beautiful. Wow, that is amazing. They did that?
They did all of that. That's all donated lights, donated trees, donated everything.
Cool. And now they can look out their window and see the lights.
And it just shows how much they support the community. And I know it's kind of close to Christmas now, and it might not work for a lot of people to do it this year anymore. But these are things that we can do all year round. In January, keep these lights up till the end of January, in my opinion, and then maybe even to February if it's that dark and cold. But there's so many things we can do. You can decorate for Valentine's Day would be the next holiday coming up, and then do something for spring, because we do not know how long this is going to go on. And we do know that those people are still confined inside their buildings. And so anything that we can do to help those residents, I think would be fantastic.
I remember caroling with all of my friends at Missouri Slope when I was in junior high and early high school. And at that time, obviously, we didn't have COVID and we were able to go inside. But to see the delight and to do the old gospel hymns with them and see their faces light up, and some people that had dementia were even joining in on the songs because their memories would go really far back, but not so much, the recent things happening in their lives. And the joy that they got was multiplied for us.
Jan, that's actually a great idea. If a community would come together, and even if they had 20 people, every Sunday afternoon or every Saturday afternoon, and just to do that on a weekly basis, so the whole town doesn't have to show up, but if you could get a committee going and get 20 every Saturday afternoon or Sunday, something like that, that would be pretty. And then to sing the old hymn songs, that they all know.
We used to do that on Wednesday nights. It was awesome.
Our memory that our tradition we've done, and I don't know if this could be implemented in this situation, but I always took my granddaughters to Garrison, and I don't know, the little town Garrison, where they all dress up and then there's a play, and it's really amazing.
Dickens
we haven't been
Dickens Christmas, yes.
And the kids loved it, and the play is phenomenal. At this old theater, and you go and they have this tea where everybody dresses up in that time period, and you have all these nice little cookies and tea. It's really phenomenal.
Yeah, I put Dickens on, or what is it? Garrison. I put Garrison on the map. I want to say, going back to the Christmas caroling and music, I've volunteered for many, many years at nursing homes, brought puppies and dogs in to see them. And music is a big deal. If somebody knows how to play the piano, call up and say, hey, can I play the piano during lunch? You know, I mean, I know the things are a little more complicated right now, but here's something that just touched me once. I had a friend who went with a priest and they would go visit people in the memory care unit. And somebody who couldn't remember much of anything could remember music. And she said, why do you think that is? And he said, because music comes from the soul and the soul doesn't forget. And isn't that amazing that they might forget names and so many things, but the music comes back to them?
That made me think of my granddaughter. She plays violin, and we used to go to the nursing home, and I think she was like 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. And she would just play violin in the cafeteria when they were eating lunch and just walk around. And those people just love that. So that's another idea, people who are musically inclined. I'm not sure how that works, you know, if they'll let them in.
Probably not
maybe not right now, but even still, sometimes outside the window, you know, they just like music and singing, and they like you coming to see them. So, you know, bring your karaoke machine.
Or, you know, even if they left their doors open and say, like the Strolling Strings,
Sure.
it could be someone that it's just a one-man show, like one person with a violin, or it could be a group, and just have everyone open their doors and have these people either sing carols in the hallways or use musical instruments. Anyway, we have about a minute left of the show, and this is when we have our final thoughts.
Well, I am missing the Messiah performance this year. You know, because of COVID, they canceled it, and that is such a community thing where all of these people get together and sing from the heart. There's the orchestra people. It's just a community gathering and a celebration of the season. And I'm looking forward to next year.
My final thoughts, I'm just starting to Christmas shop.
My thought is play some music. Reach into your soul and play some beautiful music.
Renee, I think we have more in common because we haven't really done any shopping yet either. But anyway, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you join us again tomorrow. And I guess we've got so many topics to cover, but thanks for joining us. Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.